Teachers shape their students so much more than we sometimes realize. And what I mean by this is that we see them for 8, 9 hours a day, 5 days a week, sometimes more than our own families. And for younger students, especially those in primary school, that influence is huge. Those are the years when kids are forming their sense of self, their confidence, their curiosity, and even their personality. Even in secondary school, when students and people assume that, oh, they already know who they are, they've matured well enough to kind of get an understanding of their personality, that influence still does not disappear. Teenagers are still figuring themselves out. I'm 17 years old, and my friends like to joke that I'm a granny to them, and I'm still figuring myself out. We're still absorbing this environment around us. You see, when I was younger, school felt very simple for me. You would follow instructions, you memorized information, and if you worked hard enough, everything made sense. But around middle school, that stopped working for me. I remember sitting in my seventh grade history class in New York while the teacher was explaining the causes of the American Revolution. Everyone around me seemed completely focused. Their heads were down, they were writing notes, and some of them were even highlighting their textbooks. Meanwhile, I was staring at the corner where the whiteboard said, "Welcome to history class." And it wasn't because I didn't care about class. I actually cared a lot, and I wanted to understand what was going on, but my brain kept on drifting. 1 second, I would be copying notes. The next second, I'd realize I have no idea what has been said for the past 5 minutes. And then I'd panic, I'd try to catch up, I'd flip through my textbook, and suddenly the entire lesson, I felt like I was running after a train that just would not stop. And the strange thing was, at least on the outside, everyone else seemed fine. So for a long time, I thought the issue was just me. It's a me problem, I'll figure it out. Eventually, though, I was diagnosed with ADHD, or more specifically, ADD, without the hyper part. And suddenly, a lot of things started to make sense for me. And it turns out I am far from alone. Today, about 1 in 10 children are diagnosed with ADHD, making it one of the most common neurodevelopmental conditions among students. But researchers also estimate that there are millions of more students that remain undiagnosed, especially students who may seem quieter in class rather than disruptive. And even for students without ADHD, attention span has become such a growing challenge in our society. The average teenager now spends over 7 hours a day on screens and platforms, social media like TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, which have now designed their algorithms around short, fast bursts of information, videos that last seconds rather than minutes. Our brains are constantly switching, scrolling, reacting, absorbing new information every day and every second. I remember just a couple of days ago, a friend of mine was watching a 20-minute video. They had put the video on 2x speed just to get through it. Isn't that crazy? So then, when students walk into a classroom that expects them to sit still, listen quietly for 1 hour straight, and process information that only comes to them in one direction, it's not a surprise that many of them struggle. It's not the students that don't care about learning, though. In fact, the strange thing is, outside of classroom, if they genuinely find something that interests them, they love learning. I'll take me, for example. If I am genuinely interested in something, I could disappear into thousands of rabbit holes for many hours straight. One time, I spent an entire evening learning about Formula One race strategy, like tire degradation, pit stop timing, safety car probabilities. These were things that no teacher had assigned me ever. There was no test, no homework, and just curiosity. That curiosity has led me to actually be a co-founder of my company, PokeShare, which focuses on fractionalized ownership of trading cards. And yes, you guessed it, Formula One cards as well. We have now actually hit over $50,000 in profit in the last few months. And that's when I want you guys to realize something. Students aren't incapable of focus. We are incredibly capable of it. But we focused when we feel curious, involved, and connected to what we're learning. As you might have heard and will hear many, many times today and later tomorrow, the challenge is that the world students are growing up today looks very, very different than the one world education was originally designed for. Information is not scarce anymore. You no longer go to a library and rifle through pages looking for information. Answers are just a search bar away. AI can generate thousands of explanations, summaries, and even essays in just mere seconds. So the goal of education can't just be delivering information anymore, because students already have access to more information than any one of us has had. And the funny thing is, when I was writing the outline of this speech, I had a solutions section. Cheryl, this is where you're going to talk about how we can solve this problem as a whole. But there is no one solution. What we need help with is something different. We need help with learning how to think. And I was speaking about this with my computer science teacher yesterday, and this is now called metacognition. We also need help with how to question things, how to solve problems, how to collaborate with people who think differently from us, and how to use new tools responsibly instead of just pretending that they don't exist. And most importantly, we need learning environments that recognize that students are not identical. Some students learn by listening, some students learn by discussing, and some learn by building, experimenting, and even asking you guys thousands of questions in just 1 hour. You see, education for the future isn't about finding one perfect method that works for everyone. It's about being flexible enough to recognize that students are human beings first and learners second. Which brings me to the last point of my speech, as well as the most important. Throughout this event, you will talk about future of education, new ideas, new approaches, and new philosophies. But the future of education is not sitting somewhere far away waiting for some expert genius to solve it and to figure it out. The future of education is already sitting in your classrooms. Yes, you guessed it, it's the students. So the real question isn't whether students are ready for the future. The real question is whether education is ready for them. Thank you.